The last light of the twin suns painted the sky orange and purple as the colonists of Verdant 7 gathered around the bonfire. 3 years they had survived on this moon that everyone said would kill them. 3 years of hard work, careful planning, and more luck than any of them deserved. Rosa Okonkwo bounced her daughter Amara on her knee, while her husband Daniel passed around cups of homemade berry wine. The little girl was 18 months old now, with her father's dark eyes and her mother's wild curly hair. She giggled at the flames dancing in front of her. "To another year of not being eaten," Daniel said, raising his cup. The colonists laughed and drank. It was a dark joke, but dark jokes were how they coped. Verdant 7 was classified as a Category 5 death world by the Galactic Council. The soil was perfect for growing crops. The climate was gentle. The water was clean, but the Sithrak made it a nightmare. The Sithrak were dragons, real dragons, not the fairy tale kind. They stood 40 feet tall on 4 massive legs. Their scales were harder than steel. Their tails could crush a transport ship, and when they opened their mouths, they breathed plasma hot enough to melt rock. No other species in the galaxy would come here. The Morvith tried once, 200 years ago. They lost 3,000 colonists in a single night. The Kelori sent robots to study the creatures. The robots lasted 4 hours. But humans needed a new home. Earth was crowded and dying. The colony contracts paid well, and desperate people take desperate chances. 200 volunteers signed up to farm the death world. Governor Helen Price stood up to address her people. She was a short woman with gray hair and a voice that could cut through any noise. 3 years, she said. The council gave us 6 months before they expected to collect our bodies. Look at us now. More cheers, more drinks. Rosa smiled and looked down at Amara. The little girl had fallen asleep against her chest, worn out from all the excitement. Rosa nudged Daniel. "I'm going to put her in the playpen." "I'll come with you." They walked the short distance to the family housing area. The colony was small but well built. Strong walls surrounded everything. Motion sensors, thermal cameras, electric fences that could knock out a small elephant. Nothing could get in. Rosa laid Amara gently in her playpen near their front door. The night was warm, and she could still hear the party just 50 meters away. "Sleep well, little one." They returned to the celebration. Daniel got pulled into a card game. Rosa chatted with the other mothers about the new school they were planning to build. The moons rose high and bright. The wine flowed freely. It was almost midnight when Rosa felt the first twist of worry in her stomach. She had not heard Amara cry in hours. The girl usually woke up at least once. "I'm going to check on her," Rosa told the woman next to her. She walked back to their housing unit with a smile still on her face. The smile died when she saw the empty playpen. Rosa's heart stopped. She looked around wildly. Maybe Amara had climbed out. Maybe she was crawling nearby. Amara, Amara. Nothing, no sound, no movement. Rosa screamed. Daniel came running, then Governor Price, then everyone else. Within minutes, the entire colony was searching. They checked every building, every corner, every shadow. It was a young engineer named Paolo who found the problem. A section of the perimeter fence had a gap at the bottom. Something had dug under it from the outside. The hole was small, just big enough for a curious toddler to squeeze through. And on the other side, in the soft dirt beyond the fence, were footprints. Tiny human footprints walking straight into the dark forest. "No," Rosa whispered. "No, no, no." Daniel grabbed a plasma rifle from the armory. "I'm going after her." "You can't," Governor Price said. Her face was pale. "Daniel, you know what's out there." "That's my daughter." He was already moving toward the gate. 5 other colonists joined him, all armed. Rosa tried to follow, but Price held her back. "Someone needs to stay in case she comes back," the governor said. But they both knew that was a lie. Daniel led his team into the forest. The trees on Verdant 7 grew 300 feet tall with trunks as wide as buildings. The undergrowth was thick and full of thorns. Their flashlights made tiny circles of light in the endless darkness. They followed the footprints. Such small footprints. Daniel tried not to think about how fragile his daughter was, how soft and breakable compared to everything that lived in this forest. 20 minutes into the search, one of his team members stopped. "Sir, look." The flashlight beam illuminated something that made Daniel's blood run cold. Claw marks in the dirt. Each mark was as long as his arm and as deep as his hand. The prints alongside them were massive, bigger than their entire transport vehicle. A Sithrak had passed through here, recently. And the tiny human footprints led directly into the giant monster tracks. "We should go back," someone said. "The girl is gone, there's nothing left to find." Daniel stared at the claw marks. His hands shook. His eyes burned with tears he refused to let fall. "She's my daughter," he said quietly. "I'm not leaving without her, even if all I bring back is proof of what happened." He kept walking into the darkness. The others followed, though none of them expected to find anything but death waiting ahead. The forest breathed around them. Strange insects chirped in the darkness. Somewhere far away, something large moved through the trees, making the ground tremble with each step. Daniel kept his eyes on the footprints. His daughter's tiny tracks mixed with the massive marks of the Sithrak. He tried to make sense of what he was seeing. The creature's prints did not seem to be chasing Amara. They moved alongside her, almost like they were walking together. That made no sense. Sithrak killed everything. That was what they did. His radio crackled. Rosa's voice came through, broken by static and tears. "Did you find anything?" "We're still following the trail," Daniel said. "The prints lead deeper into the forest." "Come back, please. I can't lose you too." Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. "I can't, not yet, I love you." He switched off the radio before she could respond. He could not bear to hear her cry. The team pushed forward. The forest grew denser. The trees here were ancient, their roots twisting across the ground like frozen rivers. Bioluminescent moss covered everything, casting an eerie blue glow. One of the colonists, a woman named Grace, pointed her scanner ahead. "I'm picking up a massive heat signature, quarter-mile north." "How massive?" "Bigger than anything I've ever scanned. It's the size of our entire colony." A Sithrak, maybe more than one. Daniel gripped his rifle tighter, though he knew the weapon would do nothing against such a creature. You could empty 100 plasma rounds into a Sithrak and it would barely notice. "Anyone who wants to turn back, I understand," Daniel said. Nobody moved. They were all terrified, but they were also colonists of Verdant 7. They had faced death every day for 3 years. They would not abandon a child without at least trying. The cliff appeared suddenly through the trees. It rose 200 feet straight up, covered in vines and moss. At its base was an opening, a cave mouth wide enough to fly a shuttle through. The heat signature was coming from inside. Daniel approached slowly. His flashlight beam could not penetrate the darkness of the cave, but he could hear something. A low rumbling sound, deep and rhythmic, like breathing. He found Amara's blanket caught on a thorn bush near the entrance. The pink fabric was dirty but not torn. There was no blood, no sign of violence. "She went inside," Daniel whispered. "Then she's dead," Grace said softly. "Daniel, I'm sorry. There's no way she survived going into a Sithrak den." Daniel did not respond. He walked toward the cave. "What are you doing?" "Getting my daughter." "You'll die." "Probably." He stepped into the darkness. His flashlight cut through the black, revealing walls covered in strange crystals that reflected the light in rainbow patterns. The cave was warm, almost hot. The air smelled like copper and smoke. The breathing sound grew louder as he walked deeper. His boots crunched on scattered bones, old kills that the creature had dragged here over the years. He tried not to look at them. Then his light found something that made him stop breathing. Amara. She was alive, more than alive. She was sleeping peacefully, curled up against something massive and golden. Her tiny body rose and fell with each calm breath. Her thumb was in her mouth. She looked comfortable, safe. Daniel's light moved slowly, revealing what his daughter was sleeping against. A Sithrak, a female based on the smaller head crest. She was enormous, her body filling most of the cave. Her scales gleamed gold and bronze in the flashlight beam. Her wings were folded against her sides. Her tail curled around something behind her. The dragon was awake. Her eyes, each one the size of Daniel's head, were open and watching him. They glowed like molten amber in the darkness. Daniel could not move. He could not breathe. He waited for the creature to open her mouth and burn him to ash. But she did not move. She just watched. Slowly, Daniel forced his legs to work. He took one step forward. The Sithrak's eyes tracked him, but she remained still. Another step, another. He was close enough now to touch his daughter. The dragon shifted slightly. Daniel froze again, but she was not attacking. She was revealing what her tail had been wrapped around. 3 eggs, 3 massive golden eggs, each one almost as tall as Daniel. They were nestled in a bed of soft moss and shed scales. And Amara was lying right among them. The dragon had placed her with the eggs. She had tucked the human baby in with her own unborn children. Daniel's mind could not process what he was seeing. This made no sense. Nothing about this made any sense. His radio crackled, Rosa's voice. "Daniel, Daniel, what's happening? Please answer me." He raised the radio to his lips with a shaking hand. "Rosa," he said slowly, "you need to get here, now, and tell everyone to lower their weapons." "What? Why? What did you find?" Daniel stared at the massive dragon, at his sleeping daughter, at the eggs surrounding her like siblings. "Something impossible," he whispered. Rosa ran through the forest like she had never run before. Branches scratched her face. Roots tried to trip her. She did not care. Her daughter was alive. That was all that mattered. She found Daniel's team standing outside the cave, their weapons lowered, their faces showing pure shock. None of them spoke. They just pointed toward the darkness. Rosa pushed past them and entered the cave. Her flashlight found Daniel standing perfectly still about 30 feet inside. Then it found Amara. Then it found the dragon. A scream built in her throat. Every instinct in her body told her to grab her child and run. But Daniel turned and raised his hand, stopping her. "Don't," he whispered. "Watch." Rosa forced herself to stand still. She watched the Sithrak watching her. The creature's massive eyes blinked slowly. They were intelligent eyes. Rosa had seen many animals in her life, but she had never seen anything look at her with such clear understanding. The dragon made a sound. It was not a roar or a growl. It was something softer, deeper. A rumble that Rosa felt in her chest more than heard with her ears, almost like a cat purring if cats were the size of buildings. Amara stirred at the sound. The little girl opened her eyes, saw her mother, and smiled. "Mama," she said happily. But she did not move toward Rosa. She stayed where she was, nestled against the dragon's warm belly. Rosa's heart broke and healed at the same time. Her daughter was alive. Her daughter was safe. Her daughter was being protected by a monster that should have eaten her. "I don't understand," Rosa whispered. "Neither do I," Daniel said. "But look at her. Look at where the dragon put her." Rosa looked. She saw the eggs. She saw how Amara was positioned among them, kept warm by the dragon's body heat, sheltered by her massive form. She thinks Amara is one of hers, Rosa realized. The dragon rumbled again. Rosa could have sworn the sound was agreement. Something clicked in Rosa's mind. She was a mother. The dragon was a mother. They were the same in the only way that mattered. Rosa did something that surprised everyone, including herself. She lowered her flashlight and walked slowly toward the dragon, not toward Amara, toward the Sithrak. Rosa, no, Daniel reached for her. She ignored him. She kept walking until she was close enough to see her own reflection in the dragon's golden eye. The creature could kill her with a single breath. One small flame and Rosa would be gone. But Rosa was not afraid. She had spent 18 months learning what her daughter needed just by watching her. She could read Amara's moods in the way she held her hands, the sounds she made, the look in her eyes. Mothers learn to understand their children without words. And right now, she was looking at another mother. "Thank you," Rosa said softly. The dragon tilted her massive head. "You found her lost in the forest, crying, scared, cold." Rosa's voice shook, but she kept talking. "You could have killed her, eaten her, ignored her, but you didn't. You brought her here. You kept her warm. You protected her." The rumbling grew louder, warmer. "I understand," Rosa continued. "I know what you did. One mother to another, I understand." She sat down on the cave floor, not running, not fighting, just sitting like she was visiting a friend. The Sithrak watched her for a long moment. Then, slowly, the massive creature lowered her head until her snout was almost touching Rosa's lap. Daniel made a strangled sound of terror. But Rosa reached out and placed her hand on the dragon's scales. They were warm and smooth, like sun-heated stone. The dragon's eyes closed halfway, and her rumbling became even softer. "I need to take my daughter home now," Rosa said gently. "But I want you to know that I'm grateful, so grateful." The dragon opened her eyes. She looked at Amara, then at Rosa, then at Amara again. Then she lifted her tail, uncurling it from around the eggs. It was permission. Rosa understood it as clearly as if the dragon had spoken. She walked to Amara and picked her up gently. The little girl complained slightly at being moved from her warm spot, but she quickly snuggled into her mother's arms. Rosa turned to leave. She stopped when she heard Amara make a sound. "Bye-bye," Amara said, waving her tiny hand at the dragon. The Sithrak rumbled in response, a farewell. Rosa carried her daughter out of the cave. Daniel wrapped his arms around both of them, crying openly now. The team surrounded them, everyone talking at once, everyone amazed. But Rosa noticed something that made her pause at the edge of the forest. The dragon had followed them out of the cave. She stood at the entrance, watching them walk away. And she was not alone. 2 more Sithrak had appeared. They were slightly smaller than the mother, probably younger adults. They flanked her on either side, their golden eyes fixed on the humans. "What do we do?" Grace whispered. Rosa looked at the dragons. The dragons looked back. Nobody moved to attack. Nobody ran. "We go home," Rosa said finally, "and we see what happens next." They walked back toward the colony. Behind them, 3 massive shapes followed through the trees, not hunting, not threatening, just following. Watching. Waiting. Governor Helen Price had survived a war, 2 famines, and 3 years on a death world. She thought she had seen everything. She was wrong. She stood on the colony's main watchtower, looking at the 3 Sithrak that had settled at the forest edge. They had been there for 5 days now. They had not attacked. They had not left. They just sat there, watching the colony with their glowing golden eyes. The colonists were terrified. Many wanted to open fire. Others wanted to evacuate. Some thought they were all going to die. Price did not know what to think. In her experience, when something looked too good to be true, it usually was. A shuttle dropped from orbit and landed on the colony's small pad. Price watched as the doors opened and 5 figures stepped out. They were Morvith, an ancient species that looked like tall, thin birds with 4 arms and feathers that changed color with their mood. The lead Morvith approached Price with quick, careful steps. His feathers shifted from gray to deep blue, which Price knew meant curiosity. "I am Ambassador Yalin," he said. His voice was musical like wind chimes. "The Galactic Council sent us when we received your report. We did not believe it. We had to see for ourselves." "Neither did we," Price admitted, "and we're living it." Yalin looked toward the dragons. His feathers turned bright purple, a color Price had never seen on a Morvith before. "Impossible," he whispered. "In 4,000 years of recorded history, Sithrak have never coexisted with any intelligent species. Never." "Well, they're coexisting now." The ambassador requested to speak with the family. Price brought him to the Okonkwo home, where Daniel and Rosa waited with Amara on Rosa's lap. Yalin studied the child with intense interest. "This small creature," he said. "She went into a Sithrak den and survived. The mother did not kill her." "She protected her," Rosa said. "She thought Amara was one of her bobbies." "That is what fascinates me." Yalin's feathers rippled through several colors. "Sithrak are not stupid animals. They know their own young. They can certainly tell the difference between a dragon egg and a human infant." "Then why did she do it?" Daniel asked. Yalin was quiet for a long moment, his four hands clasped together in what Price recognized as deep thought. "I have a theory," he said finally. "Sithrak are apex predators, the most dangerous creatures in this sector of space. Everything they encounter is either prey or a threat. Intelligent species fall into the threat category because we build weapons, we fight back, we compete for territory." He turned to look at Amara. "But your daughter is neither prey nor threat. She is small, helpless, harmless. When the Sithrak found her crying in the forest, she did not run away. She did not attack. She was simply a lost baby in need of help." "You're saying the dragon felt sorry for her?" Rosa asked. "I am saying the dragon responded with instincts she may not have used in centuries. Nurturing instincts, protective instincts. Your daughter was small enough, helpless enough, to trigger something ancient in the Sithrak's brain." A commotion outside interrupted them. Colonists were shouting. Price ran to see what was happening. The mother Sithrak had left the forest edge. She was walking toward the colony fence, her massive body casting a shadow over the entire compound. In her mouth, she carried something large and bloody. "Everyone stand down," Price shouted. "Do not fire." The colonists lowered their weapons, though their hands shook. The dragon stopped at the fence. She lowered her head and dropped what she was carrying. It was a massive animal, some kind of local wildlife, easily 2,000 pounds of fresh meat. Then she stepped back and waited. "A gift," Yalin breathed. His feathers had turned completely white, which Price had never seen before. "She is offering tribute. She is treating your colony as part of her family group." Rosa stepped forward, past the frozen colonists, past the electric fence. She walked until she was standing 5 feet from a creature that could kill her without effort. "Thank you," she said simply. "We accept your gift." The Sithrak rumbled, that deep, warm sound that Rosa remembered from the cave. Then she turned and walked back to join the other dragons at the forest edge. The colony was silent. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Finally, Ambassador Yalin broke the silence. "I have studied alien species for 200 years, he said. "I have never witnessed anything like this." "What do we do now?" Governor Price asked. Yalin's feathers settled into a calm blue. "That, Governor, is entirely up to you. But if you wish my advice, I suggest you do not waste this opportunity. The Sithrak have offered friendship. If humans can build a true alliance with these creatures, it will change everything we know about them. About you. About what is possible between species." Price looked at the massive dragons waiting patiently at the tree line. She looked at the gift of meat lying at her fence. She looked at Rosa, still standing outside the compound, unharmed and unafraid. "Get me the council on a secure channel," she said. "We need to talk about the future of this colony." The fence came down on the 20th day. Governor Price gave the order herself. The colonists watched in nervous silence as the electric barriers powered off and the gates swung open. For 3 years, those fences had been the only thing between them and death. Now they were gone. The mother Sithrak entered the colony slowly. Her massive feet left deep prints in the packed dirt of the main street. Colonists pressed themselves against buildings, too scared to run, too curious to hide. She walked past all of them without a glance, past the storage buildings, past the medical center, past the school they had just finished building. She walked directly to the Okonkwo family home and settled herself outside their door like a guard dog the size of a house. Rosa watched from her window. Amara pressed her face against the glass, squealing with delight. "Dragon," the little girl shouted. "Big dragon." The Sithrak turned her head toward the sound. Her golden eyes found Amara's face, and she rumbled softly. "I think she wants to see her," Daniel said. Rosa nodded. She opened the door and stepped outside, carrying Amara. The dragon's head lowered until her snout was level with the toddler. Amara reached out without fear and placed her tiny palm on the dragon's scales. "Nice dragon," Amara said. The Sithrak made a sound that might have been a laugh, if dragons could laugh. It was a series of short rumbles, almost like chuckling. Ambassador Yalin recorded everything. He had stayed on Verdant 7 to study this phenomenon, and every day brought new discoveries. The other Sithrak had started approaching the colony as well, not entering yet but coming closer, watching, learning. "They communicate through their bond network," Yalin explained to Governor Price one evening. "The mother has told the others that humans are safe, that we are part of her family group now." "How many others?" Price asked. "Based on our scans, there are approximately 200 Sithrak on this moon. They all seem to be aware of the situation. 200 dragons, 200 apex predators who could destroy the colony in minutes. Instead, they were waiting peacefully at the forest edge, curious about these strange new family members." Weeks turned into months. The colonists slowly adjusted to their new neighbors. Children learned to play in the shadow of sleeping dragons. Farmers worked their fields while massive shapes watched from the trees. Fear gave way to caution, and caution gave way to something like acceptance. Then the poachers came. A ship entered Verdant 7's atmosphere in the middle of the night. It was not a registered vessel. It carried no identification codes. It landed in the forest, far from the colony, and 12 armed figures stepped out. They were Krell, a species known across the galaxy for their illegal trade in rare creatures. Sithrak eggs sold for millions on the black market. Sithrak scales could buy a small planet. The Krell moved quietly toward the known nesting grounds. They had done this before on other worlds, harvesting eggs and body parts from protected species. They expected no resistance. They did not expect the human. Daniel was on patrol that night. He had volunteered for the duty after the colony began organizing regular watches. His scanner picked up the unauthorized ship immediately. He followed the intruders to the nesting cave, the same cave where he had found Amara months ago. The mother Sithrak was inside with her 3 eggs, now close to hatching. Daniel stepped out of the trees and raised his weapon. "Stop right there." The Krell leader laughed. He was 8 feet tall with gray skin and too many teeth. "One human. This is what guards the nests now. Step aside, little creature. We have no quarrel with you." "You're trying to steal from my family," Daniel said. "That makes it my quarrel." The Krell raised their weapons, 12 against 1. Daniel knew he could not win. But he did not have to. The roar split the night. It came from everywhere at once, shaking the trees, making the ground tremble. The mother Sithrak emerged from her cave, wings spread wide, mouth glowing with building plasma. And she was not alone. Dragons appeared from every direction, dozens of them. They surrounded the poachers in a circle of scales and fire. Golden eyes reflected in the darkness like stars fallen to earth. The Krell leader tried to run. A Sithrak stepped on him, not attacking, just pinning him down with one massive foot. Daniel walked forward and looked down at the trapped alien. You made a mistake coming here. This world is not unprotected anymore. The colonists arrived at dawn with Governor Price leading them. They found the poachers pinned under dragon feet, terrified but alive. The Galactic Council sent a ship to collect them for trial. Ambassador Yalin watched the events unfold with his feathers cycling through colors no one could name. The humans protected the dragons, he said softly, and the dragons protected them back. This is not coexistence. This is partnership, true partnership. He turned to his recording device. Note for the Council, recommend immediate reclassification of Verdant 7. This is no longer a death world. It is something new, something we have never seen before. 5 years changed everything. The colony that once held 200 frightened settlers now housed over 3,000 people. New buildings spread across the valley. Ships arrived weekly, bringing families eager to start a new life on the world that everyone called Dragon's Haven. The name had been Amara's idea, suggested in the simple way that children suggest things, and somehow it stuck. Amara was 6 years old now. She had grown tall for her age, with wild curly hair and a smile that could light up a room. She spent most of her days in the company of dragons. The mother Sithrak, whom Amara had named Sunny when she was still learning to talk, had become her constant companion. The dragon followed Amara everywhere, watching over her like a massive golden shadow. When Amara had started school, Sunny had simply settled herself outside the building and waited until classes ended. The teachers had been nervous at first. They got used to it. Today was special. A new family was arriving on the afternoon shuttle, and it was tradition now for the Okonkwo family to greet all newcomers personally. They understood better than anyone what it felt like to be afraid of this world. Daniel and Rosa waited at the landing pad. Amara sat on Sunny's back, her legs dangling against the dragon's neck. She had started riding the Sithrak 2 years ago, becoming the first human dragon rider in the history of the galaxy. The shuttle touched down. The doors opened, and a young family stepped out, father, mother, and a boy about 4 years old. Their eyes went immediately to the massive dragon on the pad, and all 3 of them froze. The boy grabbed his mother's leg and hid behind her. Amara slid down from Sunny's back and ran to greet them. "Hi, welcome to Dragon's Haven. Don't be scared, they're really nice." The mother's voice shook. That's Sunny," Amara said proudly. "She's my best friend. She helped raise me when I was a baby. Well, kind of, it's a long story." Daniel stepped forward with a warm smile. "I know this is overwhelming. We felt the same way when we first got here. But you're safe, I promise. Safer than anywhere else in the galaxy, actually." The father looked at the dragon, then at Daniel, then back at the dragon. The reports said humans and Sithrak had formed an alliance. We thought it was an exaggeration. "No exaggeration," Rosa said. "Would you like to meet her?" It took 20 minutes of gentle encouragement before the family approached Sunny. The mother cried when the dragon lowered her head to let the young boy touch her scales. The boy's fear transformed into wonder within seconds. "Nice dragon," he whispered. Sunny rumbled softly and Amara grinned. "She likes you. She says you can come visit the Bobbies if you want. Her eggs hatched last year. The little ones love playing with kids." Ambassador Yalin appeared from the science center nearby. His feathers had settled into a permanent shade of peaceful green during his years on Verdant 7. He found no reason to leave. "Another successful integration," he noted. "That makes 300 families this year alone." "More coming every month," Governor Price said. She looked older now, her gray hair turned white, but her eyes were still sharp. The council received 10,000 applications for settlement last quarter. Yalin made a thoughtful sound. My final report to the council was published yesterday. Final. I have nothing more to study here. The phenomenon is clear. Humans possess something that no other species in our records has demonstrated to this degree. He paused, his feathers shifting to a deep, respectful purple. You call it empathy, the ability to understand another creature's feelings and respond with kindness. We Morvith have it in small amounts. Most species have traces of it, but humans have it in abundance. He gestured toward Amara, who was now helping the young boy climb onto Sunny's back for a short ride around the pad. That child walked into a monster's den and saw a mother protecting her eggs. Her parents entered that same den and offered gratitude instead of violence. The dragons responded to something in your species that they had never encountered before, something that made you seem not like prey or threat, but like family. Governor Price watched the dragon carry two laughing children across the landing pad. The council's classification. What did they decide? Humans are officially registered as bridge builders, a species capable of forming connections across impossible divides. You are the first to receive this designation. Yalin's feathers rippled. Several other worlds have requested human settlements specifically to help with their own challenging native species. The afternoon sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. Dragons took to the air across the valley, their massive forms casting shadows over the thriving colony below. They were not threats. They were not monsters. They were neighbors, family. Daniel put his arm around Rosa as they watched their daughter playing with the newest arrivals. We came here expecting to die, he said quietly. Instead we found family, Rosa finished. Amara ran back to her parents, pulling the young boy by the hand. Mom, Dad, can my new friend come see the baby dragons tomorrow? Sunny says it's okay. Of course, sweetheart. Amara cheered and ran back to tell the boy's parents the good news. Sunny followed her, ever watchful, ever protective. High above, a dozen Sithraks circled the valley like golden guardians. Below them, humans and dragons lived side by side, bound together by something stronger than fear. The galaxy had spent thousands of years running from monsters. It took humanity to teach them that sometimes the monsters were just waiting for someone brave enough to offer kindness first. And once that kindness was given, it was returned 1,000-fold.